So far, Putin has still not commented on the mass attack on his bomber or the strategically imperative bridge to Crimea. And the White House today was also pressed as to why he by. We have also not heard anything from President Trump. He said that Zelensky didn't have the cards when they left the Oval Office a few months back. Does Zelensky possibly have some cards that the preside had known about? I spoke to him about it just this morning. He remains positive that the progress that we've seen, he urged both leaders to sit down and talk directly with one another. And they did. That was President Trump informed in advance by Ukraine that the attack is coming? He was not. Of course, Putin, Zelensky have not talked, if that's what she's talking about. The two leaders talking directly. The White House did acknowledge that Zelensky kept Trump out of the loop on this attack. And that's obviously hugely sign. But then also, you heard her say Trump, quote, remains positive at the progress on a P. If that is the case, never mind the actions that we see every day. Perhaps the person who summarized the situation most clearly today was longtime Putin ally, top Russian security official, foreign prime minister, right under Putin of Dmitry Med. He posts online, the negotiations in Istanbul are not needed for a compromise peace on unrealistic conditions invented by someone, but for our speedy victory. For speedy victory. That's what this is all about. The Russian regime actually hone in this day. In that case, that what they're looking for is not a peace by any sign of sea. They're looking for a victory. And on the actual front lines, Putin's new offensive launched these peace talks is paying off. Putin's army quickly closing in on the Ukrainian city where civilians were killed in Russian strikes. Today, Putin's unrelenting push for total victory and targeting of civilians has many Senate Republicans over these had to be forced. About 4 Senate Republic are now backing a bill that would add even more sanction on Russia. By the way, ports and sponsoring the bill. Trump's close ally, Lindsey Graham, lead sponsor of the bill. But as for Trump, he is silent. Kristen Holmes is out front live outside the White House to begin our coverage tonight. And Kristen, I know you're learning new info right now as I talk about Trump being silent. He has publicly been silent on these sanctions, but you're learning more about where he actually stands on them. Yeah, that's right, Aaron. I'm told that he is really sitting back here to watch this entire situation. They are saying that it's unlikely he's going to issue any sanctions, despite the fact that Carolyn Levitt today, during this press briefing, essentially said that those people on Capitol Hill know that he is the commander in Senate, that they should defer to him. But it seems unlikely that there's going to be any dia anytime soon. We know that was one of the reasons that Donald Trump was waiting to impose these sanctions, or at least said so. He didn't want to impact any dia. But as you also noted, Donald Trump, the White House, he confirming that Ukraine did not give them a heads up before the drone attack over the bus. But we still haven't heard from President Trump, and I am told that this is all part of one strategy, which is just to see exactly how this plays out. You are right. It is not. There's not been a situation in which Zelensky and Putin have had direct talks. However, the White House looks at this as some sort of a win. When you see the two sides talking directly that they were not talking before, now you have them sitting down You have the United States kind of pulling out of that. Remember, we didn't send a referee to those talks in Istanbul. Again, what they want out of that doesn't seem as though what Donald Trump is saying is going to come out of those Obviously, when you hear Russia, this is all about their ultimate. But they are looking at this as a step-by-step process. And one of the things that we have to note, Donald Trump has systematically been trying to pull himself out of the negotiate. He is trying to say, this is Russia's war. This is Zelensky's war. This is Biden's war. Clearly here, trying to take the United States out of this situation. But as you said, there is this bill on Capitol One. There are these senators who are trying to push through these high sanctions, trying to make Russia be held accountable. Whether or not Donald Trump can just sit on the sidelines for the extended amount of time remains to be seen. All right, Kristen, thank you very much. With that new reporting from the White House tonight, and let's go straight now to Crystal Grove, the focus of a new feature titled The Man Putin Couldn't Kill in the New York Times. He's an investigative journalist, he's on Russia's wanted list. Of course, the man behind the unveiling of Putin efforts to kill Alexei Nav with Novichok. So it is good to see you, Christ, and to be here with you together in person. So I guess let's just start with the bridge attack, coming on the heels of the bomb right now. This is the third attack on the Mingtai, and you've got new reporting on it. Well, I mean, it's the third and not the last one. But what we know is that there's a competition among the security services in EU, including the military special operations services, to a continuous sort of flow of attacks on the bridge. We don't see a scenario in which the bridge will be completely destroyed. The bridge is something that Putin will essentially prioritize over ever possible, fixed every time. But it's just something that is very important for the Ukrainian army to continue attacking, because that does, of all the symbols of Russia desire to own Ukraine, that bridge that connects Crimea, annexed by Russia in 2014, is the most valuable. And that's why Ukraine prioritized. There's competition among other services to deliver. I think we want to see more of T. And also that, and the strategic, I mean, the Russians were unable to penetrate that, right? This was going on for 18 months. They didn't penetrate the Ukrainian security services. And it was happening. They didn't penetrate the process as it was happening. I mean, that in and of itself is stunning. But all of it together feels rather humiliating for Hesed. But that is correct. I mean, as we speak, there is an actual soul-searching post-mortem. Call it whatever you want. At the people are being yelled at. People are worrying for their Joe and maybe for their lives over what did not happen. How that did not discov what was happening for a year. And this is not something that Putin forgives. So I do expect the major changes, said the top P, obviously with a delay, because Putin doesn't like acting or reacting in real because it shows weakness. But within a couple of we're going to see whether people are fired, whether people are full of women. Yes. If a lot of windows all awry, you've got new reporting on one of the Russian GRU units, which is crucial. This is Unit 29155, and it is known for a long list of assassination and sabotage attempts, including Sergei Skry, the poisoning in the UK, the former KGB agent who had been recruited by British intelligence, right? But this is the unit GRU 29155 who was behind that Elena. And you're now learning more about that group and what exactly they are doing right now. Hacking correct at your reporting is having huge consequences in Russia as well. So what's happening here? Well, first of all, we've been following that unit back at the time I was still with Bellingcat. We discovered the existence of this sabotage terrorism unit. Essentially, they travel over the world, explode things, kill people, try to poison people with Novich. So it was a terrorism chaos, What we didn't know is that they were doing the same sort of terrorism in the information sphere. They were hacking and leaking and inventing stuff in order to create confusion and animosity towards the United States, towards within the West, and so on and so on. We discovered the existence of this information, the hybrid warfare subunit of T, and what we found on their survey, which were left unsecured for reasons that very, very typical of Russian corruptee and nepotism. And then a friend of the family was running the server that was used for targeting, and they were left unsecured. So we benefited from being able to see their work in real time, their preparation for attacks on American and that was amazing. We wanted to see who they were targeted. Yes. And I'll list I will not list companies, but the type of companies. We've been watching them for about 6 months. What we discovered in terms of history of their op is it's crazy. They were behind the whole biolabs invention, the conspiracy theory that the American government were running like biolabs and labs in Ukraine. And unfortunately, that grew legs. And people believed then that even members of the American administration were parroting that completely invented story. And now we have the origin story, how it was created. Not the origin story of the bioal or of the viruses, but of how it was invented. And they sponsored the Western journalist, actually, purveyed this story for the rest of the world. We discovered that they were an effort to stimulate a civil war in Ukraine in 2021, before the invasion. Before the actual invasion they tried to trigger internal S in Ukraine. They tried to assassinate people on both sides of the political spectrum there. in order for this to start the civil war so that Russia would come in as a peacemaker. And we discovered a lot of other crazy things. But let me move to the hacking P, because that is something that is still ongoing and has potential to damage. We discovered a list of 165 comp or websites that are on their hacking plan, on their hacking targeting list, and those included companies that you would expect from a malign actor like RU, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, the Ukrainian Atomic Agency, and so on and so. But we discovered things that should not be ever have any legitimacy to be target, such as Colorado State University. But that's the only one I will MSA because it's not a company. But why would the Russia Colorado State University, a lot of American companies, well, pharma companies, biotech companies, the main it provided to the Pentagon, drug discovery companies, something that is their DNA database in the United States, quantum computing companies, and even the doomsday clock. We have no idea why they would W to hack the doomsday clock.